My name is Thomas Stieglitz. I was with the American Air Force. I was a staff sergeant, and I've been a mechanic on several different planes during my career. I've been on the Air Cobra, been on the Spitfire, and I've been on the Mustang. I was sent to New Orleans, and then they sent the Aleutian Islands episode broke out. They sent all of our planes, and I was working on Air Cobras at New Orleans. They sent all of our planes up to Alaska, and then they shipped us, the squadrons and the group, to England. And when we got to England, we have no planes. And as a part of the Lend-Lease program that Roosevelt made up, they outfitted the 31st Fighter Group and the 52nd Fighter Group with Spitfires. And that took quite a bit of learning, because when the engine was something we weren't familiar with. When we first got there, we had nothing but American toolboxes and everything, and British is all in metric. But I stayed there for a while, and then our squadron took part in the Dieppe raid, when the retreat from Europe back to England. And then after that, we boarded ship and moved out into the Atlantic, and you never saw so damn many airplanes in your life. I don't mean airplanes, ships.
Ships.
And we went down and went into where the Rock of Gibraltar is located, through the Straits of Gibraltar. And I'll never forget that incident, because we went through at night, and here on the left is the Rock of Gibraltar, blacked out like you wouldn't believe. Over here on the right is Tangiers, and Tangiers is lit up just like as if you're downtown in New York City. And I thought, if there's any U-boats sitting out in here, we're a bunch of sitting ducks.
Oh, you were backlit.
But didn't have to do anything. And we went on in, and just east of Iran is where we landed. And we stayed there one night, and the next day we headed for the airport. Got over to the edge of the airfield, and we could not progress any further because the Americans and the French were still fighting on the far side. And it took I think it was 2 or 3 days before the French decided to give up.
The Vichy French, yeah.
Vichy French. So then we flew out of there for a while, and then we moved into Oran. And
this was part of Operation Torch.
Operation Torch.
And
that's exactly what it was.
And you were a crew chief on still Spitfires.
Still Spitfires.
Spitfires being flown by the American forces.
Right. And there's only 85 gallons of gasoline in a Spitfire, so our range is very limited. And so what happened, we had, every time Patton would move east, we'd have to move right behind him because of the gas situation. We were just behind the invasion of Italy, where we jumped from Sicily over to Italy. And our airfield was at Salerno, Italy. And I don't know how it occurred, but all of a sudden we find out that one of our supply officer, we wound up with a B-25 in the group, and we had traded a Spitfire for a B-25. And we were using the B-25 to go to Africa to load up with the right kind of stuff to make everybody feel good.
Yeah, that's true.
We traded with the French for 5 gallons of wine. I got up the next morning and wanted to know where my 5 gallons of wine was. It was over here in another tent, because I hadn't been awake yet. And we were sitting, there were 6 of us sitting in this tent. And one of the guys was sitting over, he was sitting over here, and the other one was over on this corner. And Luke said, you know what, he says, I could part your hair with my .45. And he said, well, if you think you can, go ahead and try. And he shot it across the top over his head. And then he said, you know, I think I'll go down and shoot the first sergeant.
Was this before or after he drank his 5 gallons of wine?
That's after he was stuffed. He was snockered. he said, I think I'll go down and shoot the first sergeant. Well, someone in the tent ran down and notified somebody like Luke's on the warpath right now. So we're sitting there in the tent, and all of a sudden here comes a cadre of the first officer and his second, and he walks in there, and a friend of mine who lived in Chicago now said, first, the chief officer, he said, I want you 2 guys to arrest this guy. Well, we both sat there and thought about it, and it didn't move. And because the whole, get right down to it, the whole damn squadron was under arrest. There was absolutely no place for anybody to go. The officer down there said, if I can't get my non-coms to carry out my orders, I'll make them privates. And he and I, this other fellow and I, both got busted from staff sergeant to private. And then a month later, and a month later, and later, we went up the ranks private first class. Corporal, sergeant, then back to our staff sergeant positions. All because we wouldn't obey the orders of arresting this guy that was threatening us.
Just out of curiosity, what could be traded for 5 gallons of wine from the French?
I traded my winter underwear.
Your winter underwear?
Yeah. You didn't need that cross
in the desert. I think from the Spitfire to the Mustang, as far as maintenance was concerned, anything sticks out in your mind?
Well, since Spitfire had the same, basically the same, because it had the Merlin engine in it. It was no problem dealing with this plane's engine.
Which one did you prefer? Which one did you like better?
Oh, Mustang's got a lot all over the.
And was that simply because of range and firepower?
Range, and it's easier to work on.
It's easier to work on. So that's what I was asking. What makes the Mustang easier to work on than the Spitfire?
Well, it's like we build things. You can take something off over here and put it on this one, and it works. You don't do that with the Spitfire. Spitfire's kind of handmade. They were all kind of handmade.
I see.
And it made it difficult to keep them up.
I see. Wow, that's great to hear firsthand from a guy who was there back when these things were state of the art.
Another thing about like experience, a Spitfire when you're checking out the mags that's over on the run up, you can only go about something close to halfway on the RPM, or you're going to tip it over. If you want to check it out with full RPMs, you hang 2 people on the tailpiece on the elevators back there. And I know that works because I tipped one of them over.
Did you? How did that go down?
Well, we had wooden props on those engines, and one piece of the wooden prop landed about a quarter of a mile away.
Wait, this was 1941 in North Africa?
No, this was down. Yeah, no, this was in happened to be when we were in Italy.
Italy, so 1942, 43.
Yeah, in that area. That was the area.
And the Spitfires had wooden props.
Oh yeah,
No kidding.
but that was a good deal because it didn't wreck the engine.
Sure.
It just the prop just got blown away.
How about that?
They had a group had just had a drawing to find out who was selected to go on a 45-day leave of absence back to the States and then come back to Italy. And my name had been pulled.
Nice.
Well, the troops were very, very unhappy with this whole deal because here's Tom has been 2 weeks on a jaunt. He's already had his trip, and my pa was, and I can't remember his name now, but he said, if you didn't want his name in the hat, you shouldn't have put it in there. But since you drew it out, he's the one that goes back. So I left Italy and went back to the States, and I was back home before the war in Germany ended. I got home, and the day that the war ended in Germany, I was sitting out in the backyard mowing my dad's grass out in the backyard and drinking beer.
Very good.